Stephanie, this is feedback for the interim submission of your hotel project. The criteria that are covered within the interim submission are concept, annotation, highlighting the design thinking of the proposal, the planning aspect of the proposal, the visual explanation of your design proposal, and an indication of materials, finishes and products. And I think just coming up to your project, it's most impressive the amount of information that you've conveyed and how effectively you've conveyed it at this stage of the project. The background and the justification for the proposal are come across very well, and I'm assuming, without having looking at your document, you've managed to take some of that from there. As I'm just kind of working my way through the slides or your sheets, the first one being a sort of introduction to the client and the location. I think is useful for anybody coming to look at your project, and make sure you include that in the next part of the project. And the fact you've included the initial concept stroke mood board again gives a good indication of the direction that the project's taking. I particularly like your colour scheme inspiration. One thing I would highlight though is looking at the painting by Rowena Comrie, that the kind of purples and the deep blues are missing, and I think that's going to be something to sort of look at on your sort of colour band there, and it might be something that could inject a wee bit of accent into some of the sort of spaces that you've got. Planning on the ground floor. I'm just wondering, I think the first thing that sort of jumps out is the conference room and your workspace, and I'm wondering, and maybe it's because it's 1 to 100, but it's looking that it might be a bit small. It might be useful, to have as some sort of business area, but maybe have a wee rethink about how that works. It looks as if you may have retained the existing walls, so again you can maybe look at sort of taking those out and revamping that. I think it's obvious from the amount of information that you've included in the drawings and the way of annotation that you have thought quite a lot about what's happening in the spaces. So I think all I would be saying is maybe tweak some of these sort of things. Maybe again, once you start to visualise them, or maybe once you start to work digitally, you can start to sort of adjust and trim some of the spacings between screens and walls and things. And again, maybe even highlighting some of these areas with different floor finishes. I see you've done that in one sort of area. So again, I would imagine and hope that this will continue to sort of develop and improve in its appearance. Again, the illustrations that you included, your wee sketches, give a good indication of, because you've picked furniture and things out, the feel of the space and some of the structures that you want to try and incorporate into it. Again, just watch with your sketches that you're getting the proportions right, although I think one of the questions I have written down for myself is, are you planning on lowering the ceiling in some of the areas, again to kind of change the proportions of the space? Again, that's something that we can maybe have a look at. I think once you start to draw sections of the spaces that you've got, you can maybe start to sort of evaluate that and decide yourself how you want to sort of go with that. I think the big thing that comes across looking at the first floor plan is the interesting void that you've created within the space. And I know that this sort of horizontal line ties in with the ground floor windows. I would just watch, maybe that's something that can be adjusted a bit, because I think it's leaving you, it's a bit tricky for some of the furniture layouts, and again that's maybe something we can talk about together. I think some of those could be, maybe the layout can be rethought, and maybe just look at the amount of area that you're giving over to the void. But again, I think it's somewhere that people would want to sit and look down into the space. And I think the other thing I was thinking as well is actually make sure you have an indication on the ground floor of where that cutout would be in relationship to what's happening on the ground floor, and you may again end up having to do a couple of wee tweaks. Again, it's something you can sort of look at. I have scribbled a couple of wee bits and pieces onto the plan. There's a couple of areas that I've put wee question marks in because they're wee sort of areas with nothing happening in them, a bit kind of dead space. Also considering maybe double doors or some sort of door before you head to ladies' toilets. So again, you're containing your space. I think the other thing I was thinking was that I know you've put a divider in between the bar and the restaurant, but again, should it be Should it be there? Should it be a door? Should it be something that allows people to sort of circulate around the space? Because unless you're bridging across the void at some point, and again that might be something to sort of think about. The visuals for the bar and restaurant, again, are very effective in illustrating some of the detailed aspects that you're going to be incorporating into it. Give a good idea of space and some of the kind of features and things that are hanging down. Again, the fact you're supporting it with the photographic illustrations and the annotation, again, gives a good idea of where you're hoping to go with this. I like your wee model as well, which does sort of kind of show off some of the aspects that I was talking about with regards to how it ties in with the ground floor spaces. I think all in all, an impressive interim submission, and I look forward to seeing the finished results. Thank you.